Okay then, now I'm pretty happy with my game, but top tip, whenever you're working with Scratch, if you're using the offline version, please make sure that you regularly save your work. Okay, worst thing that can happen to you is finish this lesson, don't save your work, someone logs you off, and the next week you've got to do it all over again. Anyway, let's go back to the game. At the moment, I've got a whacking hammer, happy with it. It's following the cursor, great. But what should happen is that when I whack the beetle should disappear, and then a new beetle should appear somewhere on the game area. Now, there's a couple of things here. Number one, every time I start this game, that beetle, to stop, is always in the same place. I'd like that beetle to be somewhere else. I also think that beetle's a bit on the big side. So let's have a look at the beetle. I'm going to click on it, and I can see the code, set size to 50%. I'm going to change that to 30, press the game. Yeah, I think that's a better size. Now, how do I make it go to a random position? In fact, we've already done that because we used it in our last one, say go to the cursor, to go to the mouse pointer. We used that on the hammer. It's that same block. And now, check it out. The beetle's up there. Stop the game, the beetle's over there. In fact, I'll just keep pressing this green flag and you can see the beetle's jumping all around all over the screen. And that's what I want to happen. When the game starts, I don't know where the beetle's going to be. I'm going to go and whack it. It should appear anywhere. But what should also happen is the following. When I've hit the beetle needs to disappear and then reappear somewhere in the game. So the beetle could be here and then I whack it and then it appears down here and then I whack it and then it appears over here and then I whack it and it appears somewhere else on the screen. And the whole point of this particular game, and the way we're going to keep it quite simple, is we might have a time limit of 30 seconds. You've got to see how many beetles you can whack in 30 seconds and it will keep a score. But we need that beetle to disappear and then reappear somewhere else in the game. So how do we do that? Well, this is your task. I'm going to give you the blocks and you see if you can solve it. So these are the blocks that you're going to need. Number one, you need to say if the beetle is touched by the hammer, then disappear. So how do we get an if command? Well, if we go to control, we find something called if then. And I need that block. Now you'll notice this sort of shape here. And in here, we need to put a special block. And we find it in sensing here, the one below. And there's one here that says, if touching, and you'll notice there's a drop-down arrow. If I'm touching the hammer, then I need to disappear. Now to disappear, we need to change the way something looks. And at the moment, it's we can see it. But right down the bottom, you've got to scroll a little bit, so I'll put it up the top now. There's a block to hide. So, we need that one. But then, what we need to happen is this. So if I'm touching the hammer, I must disappear. And then, I must go to a random position. Well, we know that block. It's that one. And then, I must reappear. Well, if I'm going to hide, I then need to, and again, it's right down the bottom, I'll scroll, whoops, up, I need to show. So, what I want you to do is take these blocks of code here, let's put them there, take these blocks of code here and see if you can change the code on the beetle so that if you're touched by the hammer, you're going to disappear, you can go to a random position, and then you're going to show again. The problem I have is this. That only does that once. Just like whacking the hammer, I need one more block. I'm going to let you think about what block that is, and see if you can put it all together. But you'll know if it's right, because you'll whack a beetle, and it will pop up somewhere else on the screen. See if you can solve it. Okay then, let's make this beetle appear and or disappear and appear. So if I'm touching the hammer, I'm going to hide. I'm then going to go to a random position and I'm going to reappear. But the extra block that you needed was a forever loop. So back in control we have forever, and that needs to be done like that. So let's see what happens. Whack that beetle. Look at that. Look at my beetle whacking skills. Every time I hit it, oh, it's going to a random position somewhere on the screen. Pretty cool, huh? So you'll know if you've got a working game because, well, that will be working for you. Right then, I think it's time to move onwards. Okay, so we have a pretty good working game now. I can whack beetles all day long. But of course, what we really want to know is, well, how many beetles have I whacked so far? Have you been keeping score? I haven't. I guess it must have been about 1 million. That's how good I am at the game. I've no idea how many but I got, but surely there must be a way of keeping a record. And the answer is yes, of course there is. What we want to do is this. We're going to go over to this block here that says variables. And when we click on it, there's not a lot there. But we're going to make a variable and we're going to call it score. And there are a couple of radio buttons here. Don't worry about that. A radio button, by the way, is a little thing that you can click on, like that little circle that you can click on. Don't worry about that. Leave it as for all sprites and just press OK. And when you do that, you'll notice that score and 0 has appeared up here. Now, you can actually right-click and you can change it to a large readout, which does it like that. And you can right-click and you can change it to a slider, which doesn't really make any sense because I haven't started the game and I already have a score of 78. That's not good. So here comes your challenge. Now I'm going to do this on the beetle. Okay, so you must be on the beetle. And my challenge to you is this. Using nothing more than the blocks you have here, you just need 2 of them. Can you change your game so that when the game starts, the score is 0? And when the game finishes, that doesn't make sense. When the game starts, the score is 0, and then when you hit a beetle, the score goes up by 1. Now, if you don't like, by the way, you can move this around as well. You can put that in the top right-hand corner. Put it anywhere you like. Put it in the middle if you want. Be interesting if the beetle is behind it. That's maybe something that we can think about in another lesson. But for the moment, all I want you to do is, let's put that back up there, in fact. All I want you to do is set it so that when the game starts, that says 0, and every time you hit a beetle, it goes up by 1. Okay then, how do we do this? Very, very simple. When the game starts, we must set the score to 0. Pop that in there, and then just to prove that it's currently 78, press it, and it's gone to 0. But of course, when I hit a beetle, the score isn't changing, not until I put change my variable. It doesn't matter where it goes. The whole point is that if I'm touched by the hammer, then hide, go to random position, show. I can put this anywhere I like. I'll put it at the bottom there, but if I change the score, what we have now is whacking, so you can see the score. Whack 2 beetles, 3 beetles, the score has gone up to 3. 4 beetles up to 4. Just to prove a point, I'm going to take that change score and put it there. Okay, score is 5. Press go. Score is 0. Whack a beetle. Score is 1. Whack on the beetle. Score is 2. So it doesn't matter where you put that change score by 1 inside that if loop, as long as it's in there somewhere, then that's fine. And that's all there was to it. Nothing else. See where this is going. At the end of the day, I can whack beetles, and you can see how many have I whacked so far. I don't know, I've lost count. Turns out I've whacked 10 beetles so far. But not much of a game because I'm up to 16, and quite frankly, this could be a very long video if I carried on. So how can we turn this into a meaningful game? Well, I think the only way we could do this at the moment is maybe we could have a timer set at 10 seconds. When the game starts, you've got to whack as many as you can, and then the game will stop after 10 seconds. That's all there is to it. And you can see how many beetles you've whacked. That would work as a game. You could challenge your friends. So here's the thing. How do we do that? Now, to do it, we need to make a timer. And making a timer, you'd thought Scratch actually would have come up with a nice simple thing, but they kind of haven't. You have to manually make it yourself. But it's really not very difficult at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to variables, where we made our score variable here. I'm going to make a new variable that I'm going to call timer. And I'm going to press OK. Now, the way this works is when the game starts, timer set to 0, knock off one, timer set to 10, my apologies, then every second knock one off until it reaches 0 when you stop the game. And that's going to be your task. But here's the thing. I want to show you a new place that you can put code. Because the timer isn't really about the beetle or the hammer, it's about the game itself. So it's not a great idea to drop the code for a timer on the beetle or on the hammer. So you're probably thinking, well, if it's not going on the beetle and it's not going on the hammer, where else can code go? And the answer is, there are in fact, let's move that out of the way for a moment, there are 3 things in this game: beetle, hammer, and the stage or the backdrop. Now, over here on the right hand side you can see it says stage and it says backdrops here, funny enough. And if I click on it, you'll notice that the code stuff can be dropped onto here, onto the backdrop. That's what we're going to do in a moment. Just so you know, if you wanted to change that white background, all you've got to do is press this button down here, and the easiest way to is choose a backdrop, and you can choose one from the library, like blue sky. So we've got hammers and flying beetles. Well, it works. Of course, you still have the option to paint your own backgrounds or get a surprise one or upload a backdrop. And if you're not happy with the backdrop that you've got, you can just click up here for backdrops and you can bin the one that you don't want. So we'll go back to a plain white background. But we can go back here and put code. And this is what the challenge that I'm going to give you now. And I'm going to give you the blocks and see if you can get it to work. So we're going to put some code on the stage. And the blocks we're going to need is events, when the game starts. So when the game starts, we're going to need to set one of our variables to being 10. And then we're going to need to wait 1 second. And then we would need to change the variable by -1. Back to variables, change the variable by -1. So 10 becomes 9, becomes 8, becomes 7, becomes 6. Now, here's a bit of maths for you. In control, we have this block that says repeat, and it says 10 times. And also, we have this one that says stop all. Just using those blocks and using a bit of common sense on your part, can you make it so that when the timer reaches 0, the game stops? See if you can solve it.